In nomine Patris, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen.
In nomine Patris, et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Brethren in Christ, Christ is risen.
He's risen indeed.
Rexit, Christos, Christos Anesti, Alethos Anesti. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, America and Europe. Probably
Happy
mostly
Easter,
European.
Canada.
Yes, I live in an Easter nation. We have Easter worshipers here.
Easter worshipers. Oh, excellent. What was that from? That was from something last year. Right?
That was Obama when some Malaysians, Indonesians, some country where they're persecuted, they were killed.
Oh, yeah, it was an Easter bombing, right?
Or was it Sri Lanka? Might have been Sri Lanka.
I can't remember. So he called them Easter worshipers.
Mm-hmm. They weren't Christians. They were Easter worshipers. They worship Easter.
Worship Easter.
So then the atheists on Twitter were probably like, see, they worship the god Astotar or whatever.
Yes.
And then Ryan Grant chimes in and says, actually, that goddess cult is like 300 years younger than Christianity, you morons. But anyway, we're Easter worshipers up here. And we had mass outside yesterday, which was wonderful.
Why did you have mass outside?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I live in a free country. So
you just felt like
we'll have mass outside if we want. That's why.
Okay, good.
But no, because you can only have 15% capacity now inside. You see, in Canada, we had this thing called the flu. And then I took a vacation. And then we got this other thing that we won't name because we want to stay on YouTube. And since the dawn of man, every year, around Christmas time, everybody would get sick. Everyone with kids knows this. Every teacher knows this. Every person who works in a mall knows this. Anyone around people knows this. It's like how many times growing up did somebody in your family get stomach flu or a bad cough from a Christmas gathering? It's just like what happens, right? So you had this thing called the flu. Then it would go away after Christmas for a little bit. Everyone, oh, I had that bad cough. Oh man, seriously. I had this cough in November and December and it wouldn't go away for like 6 weeks. I remember hearing these things, always heard these things at work. You'd have some colleague, when I was teaching at the high school, she'd be walking in with her like fisherman's friend or like, the Hall's candies or whatever. And he'd be like, man, she's been chewing on those for like a week or like 6 weeks. And she'd say, yeah, I just can't get rid of this cough. It just won't go away. Oh, it sucks. You got a bad flu this year.
Man, you got a cough? Wow, that's scary. You could die.
Yeah.
You better go home and lock yourself in your room.
Yeah. And by the way, close small businesses because they're going to kill you. So that was the thing. And it was like a running joke. You ask teachers how many sick days you have. We had like 10 or 11 or something like that. And we'd be like, technically, I probably could take 30 because I'm sick for a month, and that was how it went. Anyway, that all went away because we got rid of the flu. And then we replaced it with the Wu flu. And so anyway, after Christmas, everybody would get healthy. And I'm healthy. It's wonderful. And then around March break, everyone would get sick again. It's called a spring surge. Well, we don't have the flu anymore. So we have the Wu flu. And because we have that, we're locking down society again. So we're having our spring surge right now where, I don't know, 1 in 40,000 people are sick. And So we're closing down again. So the government on Holy Thursday, which was April Fool's, so I was hoping it was a joke, but they came out and said we're going to lock down again starting on Saturday. Just in time for Easter. Nothing to do with Christianity, no persecution. But it's not a lockdown. It's just stupid because all essential businesses can stay open with 50% capacity, grocery stores, whatever. All non-essential businesses can stay open this time. They couldn't stay open last time, but they can stay open this time with 25% capacity. So it's really dumb when you go to places that are like a little shop that sells candles or something, like a random little place, basically just has like a storefront. Well, they'll calculate the square footage of the building and be like, this is how many people you're allowed in this room. And like most places can only have like one person because they use like the Rona metrics. So it's like in Rona logic, you can only have like one person per 8 square meters. Anyway, so.
And you said that, what did you tell us about the graph you were telling me about?
Oh, seriously, look it up. Maybe I can't find it right now, but maybe at some point when you start talking, what I'll do is I'll look up this guy on Twitter. I'll share it with you and we'll put it on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Legit, like this guy from Toronto, he's done really good work. It's called a winter peak and it's called a spring surge. It is the pattern of all respiratory viruses since the fall of Adam and Eve. You get a winter peak and you get a spring surge. So what happens? You get a lockdown at December because it's a winter peak. They ease the restrictions because it goes like this, goes down. And then you get a spring surge, which is about half the height, 2/3 the height as a winter peak. In Canada, I'll find the graph in a minute. It is literally the exact same for the last 15 to 20 years. This year, the flu went away, so that flatlined. But if you put an overlay of the Rona, then you have the exact same winter peak, the exact same spring surge. So I don't know what they're going to tell us when the flu comes back. Like I'm actually I don't know if they paid the flu off or something, but this is with all due respect to people. I know people have been sick. I get it. But again, I worked in a high school for half a decade. Okay. Everyone was sick. Everyone, every year, there was 2 or 3 staff members who would all tell you, I had this really weird flu. My family members, last year I had this cough. I just couldn't get over it for like 2 months. They were healthy relatively, but they had this weird cough. The same thing would happen to kids. There'd be Jimmy so-and-so. I remember this. I was teaching grade 5 and 6 my first year. And there was this one kid out of like the 19 students. And, he would come in sick a lot of the time. He was a healthy boy. He wasn't like a sickly boy, but he had some weird cold. And it would be strong. He'd go home. He'd come back. He'd still be on the cough candies, whatever. And then it would get real bad. He'd go home again for a couple of days. And his mom would be like, yeah, his cold, like he can't get rid of this cough. This happens. This has always happened. Like if you actually put on your thinking hat and you turn off CNN, you think to yourself, like me personally, I've had bronchitis 18 times. I actually had a major problem with that growing up. I don't know what it is. I think it's I had the croup as a baby a couple times. And then I had, we obviously have our weather is like yours, but we have moist seasons. So I would always get bronchitis around the winter peak or around the spring surge. So it was always like late November or middle of March. And for me, for whatever reason, this is why I never started smoking cigarettes, which it's a good reason. But this was the main reason was because I had a bad cough. I grew out of it, but I would get this bronchitis thing from the moisture. Anyway, I would cough for like 3 weeks every single year. And in the old terms, they would call that bronchitis. But today they've probably called the flu, or they called the Wu flu. So we're locked down again. But it's not. But the only people that had to close were restaurants, which is actually huge because like that's 30% of small businesses. They can stay open for takeout. They can stay open for delivery. So you can walk in and you get your food, but you can't go sit by yourself in the restaurant. The tables all have caution tape around them because they're dangerous. So you can't take your food that you just took from the person who probably sneezed on it. This is the thing. If you go into a lot of kitchens, people aren't wearing masks. You know why? Because there's this thing called like breathing. So when you're working with a deep fryer and whatever, like you get sweaty and your mask becomes like you're wearing a wet rag, and then you'll pass out and fall into the deep fryer. And that's actually happened places. So like if you peer into kitchens, they'll be like, oh, and they'll just like put it back on. But they can't, because you can't breathe when you're wearing a wet rag when you're working over a deep fryer and like, you know, the flat iron grills and stuff. Like you can't. So you're going to get your food from a guy who's like probably at work sick anyway, because the flu didn't go away no matter what they're telling you. And he gives you the food, and he's like 17. So he's really into personal hygiene. And then you can't go take that food and go sit by yourself in the corner of the restaurant. You have to leave. Anyway, there was a journal. There's like one or two good journalists left in Canada that actually work for like legacy newspapers. One guy's named Anthony Fury. He's pretty good. Toronto Sun. And he has like the credentials, the official ones. You know, he's not like one of those like fringe media. He's got like the official credentials. So they let him go to the communist meetings. And the science table. And he came out and did an article and whatever. It's not actually about cases for the government. It's about mobility. So the reason why they shut down gyms, literally where the most healthy people on earth go, who never get sick, and the places that keep people healthy. And we know the leading cause of death from this so-called thing is obesity anyway. So it's like, yeah, let's make people fatter. That's good. And they personal care. So like salons, nail salons, hairdressers, whatever. So basically, this is the funny part. A lot of the normies that are like trying to give this the old college try, they're all feminists. So they're kind of saying now, they're like, wait, you closed down all the businesses owned by women. So, because it's like hair salons and stuff. So, so those places are closed. So the reason they did that though, has nothing to do with cases. None of those places, even with this sham nonsense, none of those places have any deaths associated with them, like in the entire province. We have 15 million people. There's like not one death. The reason is because the communists in Toronto, they are tracking everyone's mobility through their cell phones, which they've been doing forever. You know, that's like marketing trends and stuff. That's not anything new. If you got a cell phone, GPS, you're being tracked if they want. And they don't want you going to a place where you will sit and congregate with other people, because they don't want you making plans to have a gathering outside of that. So the idea is give people less places to interact with each other, and any way of having jovial social communication, like the gym, like a restaurant, like a salon. None of that. Not because those places people are getting sick. Most people that are actually getting sick, technically speaking, are from nursing homes, obviously, or they're from they're actually people that are going to work the whole time. So it's like people that work in processing factories and things. They actually have the highest outbreaks, but they're not shutting them down because they're essential. So they don't want you gathering outside. They don't want you gathering where they can't monitor you. That's the point, because they don't want you gathering in a place where they can't say where the case came from. And they know if you go to the gym, you make plans with your buddy you see at the gym. That's literally their reasoning. Nothing to do with science. It has to do with projections. So Canada is or Ontario specifically, is the most locked down jurisdiction in North America. We make California look free. And we're not as locked down as Ireland, I don't think. But we're one of the worst places on earth right now.
Well, I have
I'll find that graph.
Yeah, if you want to find that graph. I checked out of the world for the past 2 weeks and plus month or so. I was trying to finish this book, finished it, turned in. So we're publishing it this fall. More on that later. But one of the things I did, which was great, was I completely checked out of all media consumption.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, because we've talked on this show a lot about restoring the family, restoring the extended family, restoring an economy of the home, restoring things back to normal.
Yeah.
There's this great quote of Pius X that when he's condemning Le Sion, he says that it's what's it, Nostra Charge Apostolique, I believe, like 1905, 1906, whatever. And he says something like, there is no new city. We don't need to build anything new. We just need to restore the Catholic city. It's always just a process of restoring what God has already given us in our fathers, restoring Catholic civilization from all of the insane dreamers. Something like that is what he says. And I really thought recently that it would be very healthy for many of us to simply check out of the news. And I decided to, for now, I'm not going to read any news except for my weekly paper, my newspaper that I will read once a week. That's when I'll just check in on what the communists are doing, just to keep an eye on them, because I should. I am a father, and I do need to keep an eye of what the communists are up to.
You need to be reasonably informed.
Yeah. I don't need to be checking this every day.
No.
Unless we're at war. If we're at war and we got the mattresses out, so to speak, and that type of thing, and we are, I may need to be checking things more often. But at this point, we're not in open war. And there's a certain amount of liberation from the communists, because they want you to be enslaved to a screen. They want you to be enslaved to a screen. They've designed it that way. In Silicon Valley, there was a New York Times article that was talking about how a couple years ago, it was called The Dark Side of Screens, I believe. And it was just talking about how in Silicon Valley, the people who work at Google,
they don't like them.
Well, they don't actually give their kids the devices that they design, because they understand, because they are they are programming them to psychologically manipulate and addict your children. And they understand this, so they're not going to give them to their own children.
Steve Jobs was like that. He wouldn't give his kid iPads.
Exactly. And so they want us to be enslaved to our screens, and that's how they control us. And it's going to come to a point where they're going to be tracking us so much, we're going to have to throw these away, which would be a good thing. It'll be a really good thing, because then we can just be free of these screens. We can go back to normal life. Getting print media, I think, is such a great thing, because I just don't really need to know about what Joe Biden is doing. I don't need to know what Pope Francis is doing.
No, you don't.
I really do not. I don't need to know, if he comes down, let's go back to normal life where you can be a Catholic. You can just be working out your Catholic life with your local priest. If there's something big that comes up, the bishop will inform me if the Pope has to make some big decision. And then we'll have to deal with that at that point. But I just don't need to deal. There's no reason anybody needs to know about what's going on at St. Peter's Square, what they're doing here or there, or whatever. This is just not important. Now, it's different if your state in life is a senator, or if your state in life is a bishop or a priest or whatever. That's different. Okay. Certainly you need to,
or if you live in it.
Yeah, you certainly need to be more informed about the news and what's going on. Certainly, I completely agree with that. I'm not saying everybody checks out everywhere, but I'm just a layman, 4 kids, taking care of my family. I need to. I love just checking out of what's not important, checking into what is important.
Yeah, I didn't check the. I wasn't checking the Rona news. Like, for us as a family, like, obviously there's certain things I want to do. I want to come visit the Flanders in Michigan. There's certain things I want to get across the border, and that's not going to happen for a while. I just want to go to church. Like, we homeschool. We have a bunch of friends in the rural areas, and no one really, everyone just lives their lives, and it's great. Like, we've been able to maintain as much normalcy as possible. But whenever there's a church thing threatened, then I'm like, oh, what are they doing now? And that's what happened this last weekend. We were at the same, there it is. We were at the same, forever. But so this graph here, if you're looking at it, this is just one I can find. That's actually the flu from 2013 through 2017. And you see a winter peak, spring surge, winter peak, spring surge. Some years is higher than others, some years lower than others. Doesn't really matter. Demographics change. And this guy shared this. I think he's a finance guy. He's out of Toronto, but he's pretty good. And he basically said, what did he say? He's like, I'm just going to put this here without comment. Yeah, he's like, the recent history of another common respiratory pathogen. So if you were, the data is obviously not completely compiled for the last year because, the delays and all that. But if you were to look at this and you were to add 2021, you would have a flat line for the flu, right? So he just kind of said, like, so look at the dates there. Okay. Things start popping up middle of October, and they start coming down early January, right? And then they start popping up early March, and then they start coming down early April. So last year in Ontario, everything was fine. And then the cases started going up. They started locking us down a little bit harder in early October, mid-October. They said, don't do Thanksgiving. Our Thanksgiving's in October. And then they started easing things off. They went real hard just after Christmas. And when they did that? Well, because the trends suggest that right after Christmas, things drastically drop, which they did. So then they could claim, look, the lockdown worked, when really it's just following the winter peak and the spring surge. And then they started tightening things a couple weeks ago because cases started going up. And right now we're at the early April. And if you look at that graph, oh, look, right after April, it starts to fall right down. So now they're going to say, look, we did the lockdown just at the right time. And then we beat it. This is what's going to happen in Canada. Then we can move on to something else. What's going to happen in Canada is what I've been saying the whole time. All conspiracy stuff aside, I don't know what they're going to do with the jab. To be honest, there's actually a lot of legal, not that I trust the law, but there's a lot of legal hurdles in Canada right now with the jab. Things like 3 or 4 years ago, our nursing union actually went to court and said we will never force our employees to take the flu shot. That's like unconstitutional, and they actually won. So there's all these random precedents. So even the prime minister, as much of a jerk he is, he even has said things like, I don't think we can do mandatory jabs because it's discriminatory or something,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen. All that aside, Great Reset, I don't care. A lot of that is, in my opinion, is kind of a distraction. All that aside, the one thing that I know about Canadian human nature is that liberal Canadians are some of the most elitist people on earth. And the way that they define themselves is being better than the USA. Literally. What's it mean to be Canadian? Not being American. That's what it means for a lot of Canadians. So we actually talked to a politician a couple weeks ago. And two things I'll say, and then I promise I'll get off my Rona soapbox. Okay. We talked to this politician, and we were like, look at Florida, look at Texas, look at South Dakota. And this guy is just classic boomer Canadian politician. And he's like, are you kidding me? People are dying all over down there. It's a disaster. And I'm like, I have like 30 Americans that I keep in contact with literally on a daily basis through chats. And I don't know a single one who's like knows anyone who's, you know what I mean? It's like, what are you saying? He didn't believe us. He was like, there's no way. There's no way. So this is the Canadian mentality. We will win at lockdowns. All right. We are going to be the best. We are going to beat the reckless United States of America and their cavalier. Literally yesterday or 2 days ago, they showed how DeSantis made that thing saying we will never have vaccine passports. And the flippin' news here, the Canadian broadcaster said DeSantis or Florida says no to whatever, citing, and they put in scare quotes, freedom. Like they were like LOLing at freedom. Like they were like, Florida will not have it because of quote unquote freedom. It's like, what do you mean quote unquote freedom? That's like saying Florida will not have vaccine passports because of quote unquote human rights. It's like, like that's not a thing. So that's what our media. So that's the liberals. It's not the conservatives, I guess. So we will win, we will beat you, reckless Americans, and you are all. I know this. I know Tim doesn't want to admit this, but if you walk outside in any American city right now, the streets are lined with bodies. Everybody is dying, and it's only here in Canada where we're doing so well, where no one's dying. Everyone in Canada is healthy, so we're going to beat the USA. So what's going to happen is, as America opens up, our politicians are saying, well, we can't be reckless like them. We're going to do this the Canadian way. So we're going to do one more. And I promise, give it the old college try. We'll shove a lot of stuff in your arms come the early summer, and we're going to beat this. And then anyway, but my last thing I'll say, one wonderful development, though, has been the state of Texas. Because before the last month, if you would bring up places like Florida, if you bring up places like Sweden, if you bring up places like Brazil, if you bring up places like South Dakota, places that had relatively no to none, restrictions, people would say, if you were optimistic, if you believed in reality, you would say to them, well, look, in America, Florida is like 22 out of 50 of, deaths per 100,000, whatever stat you'd pick. And the lockdown lover, the person who doesn't believe in reality, they would say, well, that's a shame because they're 22nd. They could be in the top 10 if they had restrictions like that one state that's in the top 10. And you would say, no, you're missing the point. Like if they were all like, they're better than places that have restrictions, and they wouldn't hear it. That argument's over. So they could disregard it. Okay. And here in Ontario, that was the same thing. The premier was like, what should I do? Everyone's like, be like Florida. And he would say, you can't tell me that because they have 3 times the death we have. What he meant was like, we have 3 per 100,000. They have 9 per 100,000. That's 3 times the death, right? 3 times. Yes. So anyway, last year, Texas was in the news for their crazy cases. I remember in August, and everyone in Canada was like, oh, Texas. So what did Texas do? They caved to social pressure. They put in a mask mandate. And everyone said, good job, Texas. It's all about the mask at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. Like, no one knows anything about restrictions. Like Australia, people don't know this. Except for Victoria Province, Australia is like one of the most open places and has been the whole time. If you actually look into the restrictions outside of that province, the rest of Australia is like, please don't associate me with those crazy people in Victoria, like the government. I just had 100 people at my house. You could actually watch rugby matches from other provinces with like 2,000 people at a local amateur match with no masks on. So Australia was actually quite fine. People don't know that though. So the mask is the symbol, right? Texas, no one knows what their stadium capacity was. No one knows what their rules were about anything. All they know is that last September, October, Governor Abbott, whatever, put in the mask mandate. And they're like, good, Texas is smart like us now. Well, this is why Texas is the most important piece. And you're seeing this all over the world. You're seeing the UK, you're seeing Australia, you're seeing Canada. Yeah, exactly. I live in Australia. I've seen 2 people with masks. And, yeah, exactly. Because you don't live in Victoria Province. You don't live in Melbourne, which is the
brave new world of Victoria Province.
Yeah. Yes. So, actually, if you're a rugby fan, Quade Cooper, he played for the Melbourne Storm. He was one of my favorite players. Anyway, so Texas, though, you're seeing this go all over the Anglosphere right now, and they got rid of their mandate about a month ago, right? So their cases have plummeted. Now, it's because of winter peak, spring surge, but don't tell anyone that. It's nothing to do with that. Their spring comes before our spring because they're more southern. Anyway, that's a different story. So, but that's why it's actually the most, and even normal Canadian news outlets are going, oh, crap, why isn't everybody in Texas dying? We thought they were all going to die. I wish they were all dying because then I could be right. That's pretty much what they're saying. Well, again, Texas is the most important piece because you say, look, Texas was freedom, and you thought that was bad. So then they put masks on, and you thought that was good. But then they took their masks off, and they're doing better than they were when they had their masks on. People in Canada see this. We're not all that stupid. So what our government is saying is, this is my opinion, and I've been talking to some people who work in the universities, they anonymously, whatever, but they think as everyone opens up, which everyone is, we're going to give it one extra little push. And then we're going to claim that we were better than everybody else and use some stupid statistic like Michigan had 8 deaths per 100,000. We had 3 deaths. They're more than twice as deadly than us. They're going to say something like that, right? That'll be the narrative of, I know you're all committing suicide. I know all your businesses are destroyed. I know you have no more human rights or quote unquote freedom. But you are all perfectly healthy and life has never been better because we made you do 25% capacity at the video game store. So that's what they're going to do. And I hope I'm right because it's getting to the point now where living in Canada, the cops were coming into people's Easter vigils and things. And people probably have seen this video. Maybe I'll share it too. But that pastor, he's like Protestant, something or other. His theology is kind of weird because he was calling it the Christian Passover. Anyway, but nonetheless, he told the cops to get out, and they did. So anyway, that's Canada for you. It is the Great White North, and
yeah,
that's my home.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone, liberate yourself from these screens. This is how they control you.
Yeah.
This is how you're controlled, and you can't fulfill your duties of your state in life because your head is in Twitter's battle over this social media programming, whatever. It's just not worth it. I mean, you can get even like, these good Catholic online journals, you could just read it once a week. Just catch up on your 1 Peter 5, catch up on your Crisis magazine if they're online or whatever. I really like the print media. Because you can hold it in your hands. I don't see any reason that I would need to analyze something that came out today and find out an analysis by all these experts and then comment about what I think about it on my Twitter and then see what everybody else thinks about it. And all of us can't do anything about it. We can't do a darn thing about whatever's happening. We're just going to comment about it, talk about it. It's just, what's the point? What's the point here? But let's just, why don't we slow down? Let's think about our families. So speaking of families, I wanted to shout out to our friend Peter Gumley over at Vendée Radio. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels, Vendée Radio. And they just had I'm gonna do an interview with him, which we'll post this Wednesday. Union of Catholic is back on the air after our checking out for what's important Passion Tide break. And we're going to be talking about Baroque civilization. Very important topic to contrast with so-called bourgeois civilization, because we all live in bourgeois civilization at this point. We're all opulently wealthy and idle. That's why we love these screens. Give us something to do. But speaking of family, this at Vendée Radio, we were just talking about the difference between Catholic feasting and worldly partying. There's the great verse from Hilaire Belloc, which is, wherever the Catholic sun doth shine, there always laughter and good red wine. At least I've always found it so. Benedicamus Domino. There you go. I love Hilaire Belloc. And so this interview was talking about Catholic feasting is about an affirmation of reality, whereas the worldly partying is all about using some kind of substance or sin to escape reality and to deny reality, because they're so lonely and despairing because they don't believe in God. They have no hope. And so they're going to use some kind of drug to escape reality. Yep. And or even maybe it's not even that hardcore. Maybe it's just, I want this tech. Yep. This next tech thing. I want this next vacation, this next whatever. All you're trying to do is just escape reality. You're trying to create a situation that gives you an emotional high so that you can escape out of this dreary world that you live in, because God doesn't exist. There is no purpose. You're going to die and rot and be eaten by worms. Nothing matters. There's no purpose. There's no meaning of life. That's depressing. Yeah. So you got to escape somehow. Whereas the Catholic feasting is about affirming reality. We love the springtime and the Easter festivities. I just want to show you. Here's what Mrs. Flanders made for us. Here's our family altar. Beauty. And very organized. We've got the Easter lilies for Easter. We've got also Liturgy of the Home. Shout out to Liturgy of the Home. My kids love it. I love the That's so the new one, eh? That's the Easter. Yeah, this is the Easter calendar. Yeah. So what my wife did was we print these out. We use this local printer, and he prints them out for us on the hard cardstock.
Oh, okay.
And then we punch holes in them.
Yep.
So then we can hang them up on these hooks and then take them off and show them to the kids up close. Because the illustrations are so incredible.
They're amazing.
I love that this Easter icon is incredible. Who it's I don't know her name, I forgot. Mrs. Litters at the Home does the illustrations.
Yeah.
And Mr. Litters at the Home kind of does the marketing or something. But littersatthehome.com, everybody. You need to get it.
I've been talking to him before I forget. We got to have him on.
Oh yeah.
I keep forgetting. Hey, did you have the Sacred Heart enthroned in your home?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we have the exact same thing hanging.
Oh yeah, everybody's got to get the king of your family, get the enthronement. That's very important.
We did that on St. Joseph's feast day.
Oh, nice.
So that's the exact same. We have the exact same. That's from Angela's Press, right? We have the same one hanging in our.
So
in our kitchen.
Yeah.
Our living room.
Just a quick note. That's an important devotion, I think, because I mean, this is what I write in my book. Is that this is all going to start in the family. We need to restore the home, restore the family, restore the order of the home, restore the order of man and wife, and enthrone the king in our family. And
can I tell you something I learned on the weekend?
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you say rosary in Latin?
Rosario?
So that's actually
I don't know.
Corona.
Corona.
I didn't know this. So my one of our priests was blessing some stuff that we had. And he's from Switzerland. He's a French speaker, and he opens up his book. Actually, he uses his book. What do you call that book? The Roman Ritual, the one that you use for all your blessings.
Yeah.
His was one of Archbishop Lefebvre's, so he has that anyway. So he was opening that up, and he's like, "Oh, there's so many blessings," and he goes, "Hey, do you know what they call rosary in Latin?" And I was like, Rosarium? And he said, well, that's technically like a technical term, but he says in all the rituals, it's actually called the Corona. Corona means chaplet it means chaplet in Latin. It also means crown. So it dawned on me. I went, oh my, this is all about, the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. Like literally the way that you will beat the Corona is with the Corona. That's it. If you want to have peace in the world and get rid of this communism, then you have to coronate the Corona, the true one, in your home. So that's and the devotion to the Immaculate Heart goes part and parcel with devotion to the Sacred Heart. So that's perfect.
Yeah. So the enthronement ceremony is the enthronement of the Sacred Heart. It is a ceremony you should do as a family to enthrone the Sacred Heart of Jesus as the king of your family. Yeah. And that's how you establish the kingdom of God in your family. If you go to the Fatima Center YouTube, we have a 3-part series on the enthronement of the Sacred Heart. And Father Couture, wonderful priest, French Canadian, he does a series, and the two first parts are about the devotion and its history. It's really interesting. And then the third part is how to have the ceremony and how to prepare for it. So I recommend everybody go to that. And it is an absolutely wonderful. We watched it with our little kids, and they loved watching it. And then we watched that before we had the ceremony done in our house, and it prepared us perfectly for it. So I recommend everyone do that. And one of the things you'll learn in those videos is that Father Beavy, right? What was his name? I think he was it Beavy? I think so. He was he was from Chile. He was from Chile, which used to be a wonderfully traditional Catholic nation. It was quite a good Catholic place, and he started this devotion of the enthronement of the Sacred Heart, and there was associations set up all over the world where this is before the internet, where you would mail in and say, our family commits to adoring the Sacred Heart this hour every month. And that's one of the things is you do night adoration of the Sacred Heart. So if you can't go to the Eucharistic, you can adore the Sacred Heart. And they had it where all over the world, they knew that at all times, no matter the time zone, there were a significant amount of people covering each hour of the clock, always. And that devotion, sadly, obviously, after certain changes, kind of went away like a lot of things. But one of the ways we can help to make our church better is to pick up this devotion again. And the nice thing about it is
it's just a devotion. So, I mean, it's not I mean, it's obviously traditional in the sense that it's old, but it doesn't matter if you go to Latin Mass, doesn't matter if you go to Novus Ordo, whatever. It's just something you do in your home, so it's like any Catholic can just do this, and it will be wonderful for your family and for the church.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing that is going to conquer the world, is our children being raised in homes that are properly ordered, where the man is the father and the woman is the mother, and they are given a Catholic home. This is something that will be the mustard seed to conquer. And I truly believe that we need to refocus our energies away from our screens and into our children. And it will be the conquering force in the next generation. We just need to trust in God, because he works with mustard seeds. He works with little children to overcome these things. And he's already given us these devotions. We've got the enthronement. We've got the Immaculate Heart of Mary. We've got Fatima. We've got what we need to do. And when we've got these, when the children grow up in these devotions, daily rosaries, first Fridays, feast Saturdays, and everything, it really makes a great impact on the home and on the children. So let's see, what did we do as a family? I mean, we did Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Easter eggs are a ton of fun for the kids. They love the Easter egg hunt. Tons of candy. Today, my wife read about a tradition in Poland called Wet Monday, which is where you have a water fight on Easter Monday. So we had, I don't know if y'all had any sun where y'all are at, Kennedy, but we had some sun yesterday. It was hot. It was beautiful. Like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot where we are. So we're going to have a water fight today for Easter Monday. And really excited to continue doing Liturgy of the Home. And we talk about each day, and then we do a family morning offering together on our knees before the family altar. So that's been really great to do.
Wonderful.
And singing the Regina Caeli for the Angelus. That's a great.
That's right. We got to change that now. That's right.
Yeah. My 5-year-old now. That was the first Latin hymn he started to really hum along with last year when he was 4. Okay. And so it's a really simple one. It's really easy and beautiful. So yeah. So Regina Caeli singing in the home. Kennedy, what's the whole family up to?
So we actually went to Mass almost every day. I just sent you the link to that the enthronement video.
Sweet.
We went to Mass almost every day during Lent. We had never done daily Mass before. We're blessed that our chapel is only like an 18-minute drive door to door. Anyway, so we went to daily Mass, which was the best thing we've ever done as a family, and we will do that forever now. A couple of days we couldn't go because of that work commitments or whatever. Anyway, but so we're gonna do that, because if you can go to daily Mass, obviously that's a really it's a really not easy in the sense of like, it's not easy to bring your little kids to Mass every morning, but it's easy in the sense of if you're starting your day with Mass, then obviously you're in the liturgical mode because you're at liturgy. So that was great because it made our kids ask a lot of questions, like, why are they doing purple all over the church now, Dad? Why they cover up? So we covered up all the artwork and statues at our home. And for tricks for moms out there, wives, my wife, she bought a massive purple tablecloth on Amazon, which was like, $20, and then just cut it up into pieces and put it over everything. So we covered everything up, and we did a 54-day rosary novena for Easter, for churches to be open. And obviously there was some nonsense, but to be honest, as bad as things are, they actually keep getting better. Last year we had no Easter. Like, we had Easter, but we had no Mass.
True. Right.
And then we didn't have Mass until July. Technically, we had like 3.5 months without it. And then Christmas, we did have Mass, but they closed it down right the day after. This year, We had mass, and there have been some developments where they said now you can have as many people as you want for outside mass, like unlimited, as long as you can distance, whatever, which is great. So, it's going to be rainy here and there, but we'll always be able to go to with all things. So things are actually getting better, and we were able to go to mass on Easter, which we didn't think we were going to be able to. So that was great. So we prayed for that. And then, we are really embracing like Easter tide. So we did the same thing with Christmas. We told our kids, we're like, guys, 25th, it's just beginning. Like the fun is just beginning.
Yeah.
So we use the liturgy of the home, and we had that at Christmas. We had the 12 days on our wall.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Every day. It was just an excuse to get fat. Like it was amazing. And then we had things. And my wife, she's so like thoughtful that she found little. Yeah, the homeschooling moms, like they found ways, like we're gonna do this craft today, and this is like St. Thomas Becket or something like that, So she's doing the same thing with Easter. So we actually didn't do our eggs yet.
Oh, nice.
We had a big feast yesterday with some friends, and we have a new dish called Cassoulet. It's French. Anyway, I'm not French, even though people think I am. I'm actually not French Canadian. People will say French Canadian. I just speak French anyway. But because I'm a Francophile, let's call us, I from teaching French all these years, I know all these French recipes because I teach food units. That's what you do when you teach second languages. So last year when I was doing a lot of fasting, I was craving some meat, found this video of this French dish. We adopted it as our own. It's a traditional French dish called cassoulet. The history of it is actually there was soldiers that basically had to fight in a battle, and they were really malnourished because of all this long battle campaign. So the people of this village in south of France, they got together all their cheap cuts of meat and sausages and fatty pieces and all the beans, because beans are peasants' food, like white beans, and they made this incredible dish called cassoulet. So it has like half a dozen types of meat in it, like cuts of meat, and it's slow cooked with like tomatoes and garlic and broth and white bean. It's amazing. It's like after 40 days of want, this is your plenty. So we had a massive feast. It's our favorite dish. And so then we're going to actually start my wife's going to decorate the eggs with the kids today or tomorrow. And then it's like kind of for them, it's Easter's just starting.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go ham. And then today we won't be able to go to mass. For some, we got something going on, but we're going to start going back. So then our kids are going to see, like the celebration, and then we're going to pray the glorious mysteries for like the next couple weeks, and that sort of thing. So and our kids and the liturgy of the home people. I'm telling you, those calendars and those images, like those are a game. That is the quote unquote new evangelization. They're using technology. They're using the dissemination of PDFs and things on the internet, and they're using that for good to get this beautiful art into everybody's home, which they otherwise wouldn't have. And we are huge fans of their work, and our kids are too. Yeah.
Yeah. This is why I'm sorry to say, but the new rite of mass is not children friendly.
It's not,
because it focuses on quote unquote active participation, defined very narrowly as an intellectual apprehension of a reading. So we're going to have longer readings.
Yes.
And we're going to read more of the Bible, and we're going to do more talking and more speaking. And that's the whole important thing. And all the symbols, we're going to suppress those. The beauty, suppress those. It's all going to be about the adults now. It's all you kids. We're done with you. We're done with forming your faith. We want to have an adult party now. That's kind of what the new mass is all about. It suppresses all the great things that for the children. The children don't understand all these readings. They don't understand like going into the Old Testament. They don't understand all, they don't know all the words. They can't say all these extra responses. But when I remember my son saw this family altar, he's 5 years old, and he said, "Wow, Mom, that's beautiful." Mm-hmm. That is what impacts a child's faith.
It impacts an adult's faith.
Exactly. We're becoming like children in order to enter the kingdom of God. And that's why the old mass, just seeing the impact of seeing the altar transform from Good Friday to Easter is something that I look forward to every year. It's such a beautiful, wonderful thing to see. So just to see those things, that's why the liturgy of the home is so great. You know, and we're not getting paid to say this. Like, this is just something that we love because it's the beauty of seeing those things. That's what's so beautiful for the children, because we're using beauty to communicate. That's what children who are before the age of reason, they understand beauty. Beauty is how they communicate so much. It's what's so powerful about them. One of the things we got this great picture book. It's kind of funny because the Paulist fathers, in the United States, lamentably, they are a lot like the Jesuits.
I know, but they have really good publishers.
They have really good books. I know. Yeah. It's like,
it's weird.
They publish this John Cassian volume, which is excellent. You know, Fathers of the Church here, but I don't have it in front of me. But it's a picture book. I think the title is the most beautiful Bible stories. Okay. And it's just this beautiful artwork. It doesn't have any words. It's just designed so that you can show your kids this beautiful. So there's like David and Goliath. There's this great painting of David and Goliath, and David is, you know, killing Goliath. There's like the stone hitting Goliath and the blood coming out. You know, these kids, my boys are gonna love this. You know, like so just looking at this photo and just talking about the story. And this is something that is so powerful for the kids. It's beautiful.
Sophia Institute Press, they have a wonderful series of books called like Our Lady's Closet, Our Lady's Treasure Chest, or something like that. And it's amazing. Like, they're so beautiful. And one of them goes through all the different, so the idea is for like little girls, and even my boys like it too, but like Our Lady in all of her apparitions has different clothes on. So like she goes into her closet.
Oh yeah. My wife just bought that book.
It's going around. I mean, we
just bought it for my goddaughter. Yeah.
These these Catholic moms on Instagram, like, they all buy the same stuff. So
so good.
She found it's beautiful. And there's there's also who is it? I can't remember. But there's so much good stuff out there. It's just the beauty, like, listen. I'm tired. I don't care about like the trad wars. Everyone knows my position. I'm whatever. I'll do apologetics for the SSPX all day long, but I don't care. Like, outside of that, like, it's like, are you Catholic? I'm not going to get into the nonsense. I have certain non-negotiables, but it's like, listen, guys, whatever you think, it should have been interpreted better. They didn't implement it properly. If you do it reverently, it's like, guys, it's not working. Like, we don't have to argue about it. It's just like, things were Catholic and then they weren't. So, you know, one of my favorite expressions is from C.S. Lewis, I think. Oh no, him or Chesterton, I get it mixed up. But it was like, people say you can't turn back the clock. You can literally turn back the clock. Like, if your clock is wrong, you just walk over and you literally turn it back. If the timing is wrong, you just make the timing correct. That's how a clock works. So Charles Coulomb just posted something, and the problem before the council was not liturgy. It just wasn't. You can make your dumb arguments all day long, but it just was not the liturgy. The problem was theological. There was a certain percentage of priests and clerics who were liberal-minded modernists. They had positions of influence, and they argued all their positions, and they didn't believe in whatever. That's the problem. You got to go back to the old liturgy, and you got to go back to the old devotions, because they were organic, they were authentic, they grew up in Christendom, and they understood human psychology. Chesterton points this out in Everlasting Man, that Protestants and Catholics actually have a different psychology. Catholics historically learned in pictures, whereas Protestants is a post printing press faith, based on literacy rates. Okay, without literacy rates, there is no Protestantism, because no one can interpret the Bible for themselves; they can't read it. So, with Catholicism. And it's the same with the Old Testament. You read the Old Testament, the temple was full of imagery. If you read accounts from the old Midrash and things like that about what the actual temple inside looked like, it would have been one of those. They say it would have been like, they say basically the entire cosmos was painted in the most, like, it was like walking into heaven. You know, art has always been at the forefront of the aesthetic of liturgy, and you have to have it. And with all due respect, whenever you do the Novus Ordo in that super reverent way, it just kind of looks like 70% of the Latin Mass. So you may as well just do the old one, or the Byzantine, or the Syriac. I don't care. And even in the East, unfortunately, you know, you look at like they've adopted a lot of the Spirit of Vatican II in some of their, like, yeah, they're still ad orientem. Yes, it's up. Like if I was living in a town and I had no TL traditional Mass, and I had Novus Ordo, and I had like Melkite or Maronite, even though if it was watered down, I would still go to the Melkite and Maronite, because even when it's the post-Vatican II version, it's still much more reverent than the Novus Ordo. I get that. But the point is that everyone has to recapture the aesthetics, because the walking into a church with stained glass, with an altar, with the posture of the priest, with the sacred language, that will teach your kids more about the faith than you know, sitting down and doing a Bible study.
Absolutely. That the aesthetic, the fight against the new iconoclasm is the new iconoclasm that we live under, and we need to restore that starting in the home. And I mean and part of that starts with your wife taking her throne as the queen of the home, as the honored queen who has an integral role to be as the heart of the home. Listen,
Susan of the parish council, stop worrying about decorating the church and decorate your home. You know, like worry, you know what I'm saying? Like do all that in your house, and that'll have an effect on your kids.
So we have so much more to say. I want to recommend Dietrich von Hildebrand's last book was on aesthetics.
Oh, okay.
He has a massive treatise, 1,000-page treatise in 2 volumes.
It was art that brought him to the faith, basically.
Well, he was he grew up in Florence. I believe his first language was Italian. In fact, he was German family, but he grew up in Florence as his father was a sculptor, and all his life he was surrounded by art and beauty, and he spent his whole life really fighting against ugliness, whether that's the Nazi ugliness or just industrialized ugliness. And he ended up in America for the last few decades of his life. And he writes his last book before he dies in 1977. He's fighting against the new Mass.
Yeah.
Pius XII called him the doctor of the church of the 20th century. And he has some very important words to say about the new Mass. And but this is what we need.
Yep.
This is what we need is a restoration of beauty, a restoration of the aesthetical catechetics of the faith for the sake of the children. Absolutely. And it starts in the home, enthroning the Sacred Heart of the home. So let's feast. Let's feast. Let's enjoy the reality, because this is the resurrection is what motivated our fathers to lay down their life and resist unto blood for the sake of the King, Jesus, who is risen from the dead, because all they can do is kill you.
That's right.
All they can do is kill you.
And
this is something that we need to recapture this, because everybody's afraid of death because of a flu and virus or whatever. And people are dying, of course, but we need to also face that, and we need to face death with reality. Face death with reality, because it's all about facing death ultimately, because the world who doesn't believe in God faces death and you get despair. We face death and we get Christ is risen for the dead, trampling down death by death. So let's feast. This is our feasting time. Let's rejoice. So according to one quick note so we had noted before that the fasting rules are according to the new calendar. So this Friday is a solemnity according to the new rules. So according to the current canon law, you do not need to abstain from meat this Friday. It's Easter Friday, essentially. Some people still want to, so it's up to you. But according to the rules, that's what's in place. So I am going to go on a date with my wife and eat a burger.
How dare you?
We're gonna feast. We're gonna feast. So, any final words, Kennedy?
Jesus is king, and the North will rise again. We will defeat these commie bastards, and one day Canada will sit at the feet of Christ and learn his gospel, and we will spread maple syrup and toothless hockey players all over the globe for all to see.
There you have it. There you have it. So let's offer up an Our Father in thanksgiving for Christ's resurrection. Let me get a proper icon. I wasn't prepared. Let me see. I don't think I have. Let's see. I've got Diego Velasquez. Oh, I've got Fatima. Here, let's put up Fatima. Yes, next week, Fatima part 5 or 6, whatever we're at.
We'll get back to it.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. That'll be next week. We wanted to just get back into it and enjoy the reality of Christ's resurrection a little bit. Talk about it. The importance. There's something that there is a certain amount of Jansenism, that sort of a Puritan infiltration of the Catholic Church that still exists today.
Yep.
And people need to get out of that and feast and rejoice in Jesus Christ's resurrection. So for that goal, let's pray. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in caelis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra.
Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, dimitti nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Christ is risen.
He's risen indeed.